is this for children? And if you say it's not for children, then it gets treated with more ease and grace in relation to advertising and things like that. But if you say it's for children, then there's these restrictions that are put on it. It doesn't have background play. There's different ways that they restrict something that is labeled for children. So is that going to be like a cartoon, or like what is something that I would even make if I was going to think right now? I mean, trying to even consider and think about it. Something that I would make and I would say it's for children. I mean, everything I make, and what's a children? What age are we talking about? So everything I make is for humanity. I don't know what child is going to come along and want to recognize or listen or experience spiritual truth, or what age you have to be to understand what is spiritual truth. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm creating in the world. And I can remember being younger than 18 and having a vast amount of awareness. When I was 5, my parents had gotten a divorce, and we moved with my mother, me and my 2 brothers, to a little bitty town called Wynnewood. And it was some very strange experience. I mean, I knew that I was, I don't know, safe might be the best word to use. I knew that I was safe. But at the same time, I also knew that there was more that was occurring in the world, or just simply within my life, my body, than what I was being shown, what was obvious, what was actually present for me was a realization of depth, and not the depth itself. Like, I didn't fully receive at 4.5, 5 years old. I didn't fully receive the depth at that time. Although what did happen is that I was prepared. And so I don't know how long it was, but I just remember being in the school, walking around. I'd been there for some amount of time. My second semester is what I was living through in first grade, because we'd left and I'd already completed. Like, it was like a perfect experience as far as the physical world goes, because when we left, I had just completed the first half of first grade. So then coming around to the second half, I spent that entire second half at Wynnewood. So I basically had, I graduated. I went all the way through and stayed at Wynnewood the whole time. It was a wild experience. I'll tell more about that at some point. But what happened when I was 5 and I was in the school, I'd been there for a few weeks probably, and I didn't really know anybody. I hadn't made very many friends. I knew one boy and a girl. Actually, we were the only black people in our grade for a long time. So basically, it was just us. So there was a lot of racism. There wasn't a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion in Wynnewood, in 1986. So what did happen for me, though, I went to the bathroom when I was still 5 years old, left my classroom, went to the bathroom, and I think I don't think I even had to use the bathroom. I just went and played around or got some water. I wanted to get out of the room, right? Because I always wanted to move around when I was that young. And so what I did is leave the bathroom, begin to walk down the hall, which at that time, I mean, I went back there to the school several times, right? So I know actually how big of a building it is and how long the hallways are and stuff like that. But from the bathroom back to the classroom, at that time, it felt like this deep, dark tunnel, like the Mariana Trench or something, you know, like this great, incredible experience was needed just so I could walk from the bathroom back to this classroom. It was like this giant trek, you know, and it was a very odd experience, but if that's how it felt like it was bigger than it actually is, or bigger than it actually was, or just more to experience. The opening of experience was there for me. And so I go through this, what I can call now, that hallway became a portal. So I go through the portal and arrive at 4 girls my age going into our neighbor class. So I had Miss Grove as my teacher, loved Miss Grove, and they were going into, can't remember her name, I want to say Miss Robertson's class, which was right beside our classroom. But to this point, to this time, like I said, I didn't know anybody. I hadn't really met people. I didn't know people's names. I didn't really socialize. I was kind of closed off because the body, I had not fully adopted the realization that I was in a body, that there was a difference in being in the body and not being in the body. Like, that wasn't clear to me. I didn't have a reference at the time to be able to recall, become aware, see, sense, understand, know that that was a reality, that there was to be in the body and to not be in the body. I just operated on a normal basis. I was a kid. I did what I did. I ate food. I did what my mom told me to. Sometimes I played games or whatever. I watched TV, but I wasn't really awake. And so when I was in this hallway, though, when I was in this portal, something was happening. There was an opening that had occurred, that was occurring, that was sending me to another place. And these 4 girls, Brandy, Marissa, Lisa, and Kina. I don't think I've ever named them before, but that's who they were. And so they're running fast, kind of. They just went to go do something. Apparently, you know, the teacher would often allow her favorites, whoever the teacher was, and most of the teachers were women, the teacher would often allow her favorites to do things, right? People she could trust, the intelligent community, so to speak. You could leave the classroom to go do something, do a project, whatever. So they were doing something constructive, but they were having fun. They were laughing. They're girls, or 5-6-year-old girls. So my experience was obvious to pay attention. I mean, the little boy that I was, was going to pay attention to 4 girls. And so in this portal, they grabbed my attention. And I'm here and present. And I stop before I go into my classroom as they're going into their classroom. And I see them. Like, there was a point where I woke up, You know, it was like these girls, they were something. Obviously, I'd seen a girl before, and I'd been attracted to them before. Although this time, I was paying attention in a different way. Different way. Something had happened that caused me to wake up and pay more attention. And in that moment, Brandy, Marissa, and Lisa, they were girls, but they weren't as interesting to me as Keena, who came fourth and last. And when I got a good look at Keena and we locked eyes, she must have smiled at me or something. I was transfixed and I was transported, and I had transcended the experience of being in the physical, and I went to this other place where I could understand everything. I saw everything. I saw my life flash before my eyes, in her face, in her eyes. I woke up again, the spark of awareness, of being alive and having a purpose was switched on. I was switched on. I became more awake, more alive, more certain, more present, more aware, and in an instant, I was in love because I credited her with bringing me into the awareness of being alive. It was the most extraordinary experience I believe that I've ever had. It was obviously the most extraordinary experience I had up until that point. But I don't think I've had an experience more transcendent than that ever. It was absolutely incredible. And that was my life. That was my awareness. And that was my foray into spiritual truth. And I knew at that time what spiritual truth is. And I've never forgotten it. So, make things for kids. Why not? This is Terrence Lamont with We Are Valuable Media. I love you. I want you to exist more than I want you to breathe. Namaste. Amen. I hope you live in nirvana every day of your life.